Every week we do a Q&A with interesting and accomplished members of the adaptive community to find how they persevered, how they innovated, how they built communities, and how they found solutions. Welcome to the Nametags Chat Podcast.
Welcome to the Nametags Chat Podcast, where we celebrate resilience. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. We're really lucky today. We have Bob Vogel. Bob has done a variety of different things. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to get into everything you've done, but you've been an adventurer from the time you were little, right? Like scuba certification at 13 years old. You've taken a hang glider to 20,000 feet.
Yep.
You were the stunt double for Kendo in Hot Dog.
Yep, Kendo, and also Dan O'Callahan's character, which David Naughton. So yeah.
So you were stunt double. So you were in Hot Dog. I mean, this is like I kept thinking about this. And Bob, just first welcome, and then we'll get into it.
It's a pleasure to be here. This is really cool.
I'm super excited that you're here. I was thinking that we were going to kind of warm up to Hot Dog, but as I was reading through all of your stuff, Hot Dog seems to be so central to everything that you did. How did, and first, I think, can you explain what Hot Dog is? I'm really interested to hear what your take on is.
Yeah, okay. So for those that don't, and you either know what Hot Dog is and it's one of the most iconic movies in your life, or you have no idea what it is. So it's a Hollywood ski movie. So an official, real, full-on Hollywood movie. And it's about the World Freestyle Skiing Championships. And I would say that it's got the most amazing skiing and acrobatic and technical, way before it was called extreme skiing, along with just, kind of college raunchy hot tub humor. So it's like Downhill Racer meets Porky's. And for skiers, it is their Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'd say just about any skier or snowboarder can quote every single line in the movie, and no winter is complete without getting together with your buddies over a few beers and pulling it up online and watching it and repeating all the lines.
So freestyle skiing, American like outsider, trying to take on the established Europeans. So this is the classic skiing sort of setup, right? And
exactly. Yeah.
Comes in his truck, and there's a love interest and all this stuff and everything. And I haven't seen it in a while. I'm sure there's some hot tub scenes. There are probably some things that you couldn't do today.
Oh, you couldn't make probably half that movie today. It's for parents with young kids, I would say get a copy and edit it, because there's some neat stuff. There's the skiing is phenomenal. The skiing holds up today. It's just amazing. Some of the most amazing skiing stunts ever. The funny thing is, though, as they were shooting all this, we were all excited and everything. And when it came out that next winter, I knew the whole story and all the different scenes that were in there. And my folks said, "Oh, it's opening weekend." I was off somewhere on the planet, and they said, we're going to go see it. We're going to take your 14-year-old sister to see it. And I said, Mom and Dad, maybe I'll get a video and we can all watch it together. That'd be real fun. Figuring I could edit out, quarter of the movie. And they apparently they watched the movie, and for about the first half of the movie, there'd be scenes where they're both on each side of my sister, and they're covering her eyes. And they said about halfway through, it got to the point where she's just watching it. "Mom, Dad, I've seen all this before." They're covering their eyes.
Well, it was definitely.
And I mean, it's 80s humor. It's tame, but it's 80s humor. So it's not PC.
So you were a stunt double. How did you get cast? Or because you were cast as an extra first, right? And then you became a stunt double?
Yeah, and that was a goal in life. I mean, my my first goal was to become a professional freestyle skier and follow that path. But along that path, and we could go way back into that, but we'll focus on hot dog. Along that path, I became a trampolinist and a springboard diver, and learned a bunch of gymnastics moves, and decided I want to be a Hollywood stuntman. I mean, that, you never have to grow up. You get paid to, do the stupid stuff that normally you get busted for. Becoming a stuntman, like becoming a Hollywood actor, as you know, Chris, is an interesting thing. You cannot get a job in a Hollywood movie unless you've got your Screen Actors Guild card, but you can't get your Screen Actors Guild card unless you've got a job in a Hollywood movie. There you go. So I had been doing ski shows in Europe that winter, and missed a jump and cracked my shoulder, and so I came home early. I was broke and kind of a little bummed out, and it's middle of March. And
Where's home?
oh, I came home to the San Francisco Bay Area, a little town called Hayward. And so I'm just kind of sitting there licking my wounds in mid-March, and a good friend of mine lived across the bay calls me up, and he says, "Hey, I hear they're making this Hollywood movie at Squaw Valley, and it's all about freestyle skiing, and they're hiring the locals as extras, and we might be able to talk our way into being stunt doubles." I didn't have a nickel. He fortunately, a guy named Paul Rosenberg, an amazing guy, he drove by my house, picked me up. We called some more friends of ours. "Hey, do you have any couch space?" It's freestyle skiing. It's skiing. Crashed on some great friends of ours' couch, and the next day went into the casting trailer at 6 a.m. where they cast the extras for the day. Now this is back in the mid 1983. So I had a one-piece bright red Bogner skin tight suit that I treasure that suit. And so I show up with, there's like 100 people, and they're going to only cast so many for those scenes. And the casting director, an amazing guy, but if you would cast a Hollywood casting director, that was him. He said, like, you and, "Oh, your suit, that red just pops. Yes, you are in." And so the next few days, I'm just kind of hanging out and kind of work the scene. Got to know him and got to know the stunt coordinators, and was just always there, and started studying the characters. And I started telling the stunt coordinators, well, first of all, they saw me ski and everything. I got very lucky. The guy that was going to do the mogul skiing for Kendo, the Japanese guy, he hurt his knee in a fall the previous day. So they needed somebody at the last minute, and I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. So boom, I made it in. I'm on the stunt team. So that was amazing. And then when they were going to film the aerials, I went to the director and I said, "Hey, who's jumping for Dan O'Callaghan, for David Naughton's character?" And he's like, "Oh, we don't even have him cast." And I said, "I know how he would jump. He's got a real loose kind of, laid back style. That's the way I jump." And he believed me. And and so that's how I talked my way in. And then I was also one of the people at the end. The whole movie is that the kind of the running theme through the movie is the Europeans own all the television rights, and so corporate sponsorship kind of leans this new kid, the new young naive kid, is better than the Europeans, but the scores kind of lean in their favor for corporate sponsorship stuff. And so at the end, where the European wins and he shouldn't have, they said, "Okay, we're going to settle this with a Chinese downhill," which essentially they used to have these apparently way back when, before insurance companies were invented. They would get 100, 150 people, and in this movie we got 100 people on the top of about a 20-foot cornice at the very top of Squaw Valley. When they said go, all of us are in the air at the same time. And the thing is, it wasn't like a nice powder landing like you see in a Warren Miller movie. It was real firm. So you immediately accelerated to crazy speeds. And at the bottom of this bowl, there was only space in between the trees for 40 skiers. So it got real interesting. So anyway, I was one of those 100 people jumping off the cornice as well.
Were you one of the 40 people who made it through the trees at the bottom?
Yeah, I would like to say that I was one of the fastest, but about halfway through, I did the mental math and I hit the brakes just for a moment. I went, oh, I got to find my slot here. I wasn't getting paid enough to be getting moved off into the trees.
Fair enough. How long did the shooting last? Were you there for a long time? Were you getting paid too?
Well, that was a neat thing. They first I was getting hired every day as an extra, and so you're getting extra pay, which at the time that was great. I mean, it was more money than I was making during the summer as a landscaper, just as an extra. And then when I got into the stunt double stuff, then the pay for me went way up. So I think I got there the third week of March, and actually, let me take that back. First week of April, and pretty much hung out, and we were working through it until I left May 4th. The interesting little side note: there's these beautiful deep powder scenes where they're skiing just bottomless, the ultimate deep powder, and you notice the whole mountain is untracked. It's 3 feet of the driest, like Utah powder that is more rare in California. That was shot May 3rd. Interestingly enough, that storm wasn't predicted, and they were supposed to finish the movie by the end of April, but it was one of those great winters where it just kept snowing every other day, and we'd get 3 feet of snow. So the production took a long time. So we had a wrap party the night of May 2nd, and we figured it started to snow pretty hard. We figured there's no way we're skiing tomorrow. So, this is the 80s. People got loose. Like, people enjoyed themselves because we figured there's no way we're skiing tomorrow. And so we make it home, make it to my buddy's house, and 6 a.m. the evil sun comes piercing through the windows, actually 5:30, and we realize, oh, we gotta be in the trailer at 6 for makeup. And most of the guys got the ski powder. I got to go up with the aerialists and spend all day shoveling 3 feet of snow to make the jump site, and managed. We had just enough time to each do one jump, no practice jumps, no nothing. And it's like all or nothing. So yeah, it was like just enough light to get your one jump in.
So this was almost a 6-week job then.
Yeah. So I mean, it was amazing. I made more in those 6 weeks having fun than I generally made in a whole summer of landscaping and building decks and pouring concrete and stuff. So it enabled me to take hang gliding lessons and purchase my first hang glider, and these things just kind of lead together. More fun toys, more adventures.
Well, it's funny that you got cast, or that you were in this, that you got cast, that you were as stunt double in the movie, because it was a lot of what you were doing anyway, right? I mean, you said that you wanted to be a professional freestyle skier. When did that idea start of being a skier?
Yeah, so it started, I was born and raised in Wisconsin, where we got plenty of snow and cold, but a big ski mountain is 300 feet. That's, the vertical. Don't need a lot of oxygen. And nobody in our family was a skier. At 8 years old, my folks let me watch the 1968 Olympics from Grenoble, France. And I got to watch Jean Claude Killy win the downhill, the slalom, and the giant slalom, gold medal in all three of them. And I just thought this guy was the coolest human on the planet. And I just said, I have to be a skier. That changed my life. And I had been into so many other things before that. I wanted to be a rock drummer. I had a drum set. I was into oceanography. I was like a leaf in the wind. I saw that and I just said, I want to do that. And I begged and pleaded, and I finally wore my folks down over, the rest of that winter and the next summer buying me a pair of skis that I got. My pair of skis were kind of like the kid's BB gun in that movie. I'm trying to think of the great movie, the Christmas Story, A Christmas Story. You know, all I want is a pair of these red skis with a binding that does this and that. And sure enough, we opened up all our presents Christmas Day. And like, hey, did you get everything you want? Yeah, kind of. And my dad says, well, will you get my jacket out of the closet? Dad, you're in your bathrobe. It's freezing out. Robert? Like, oh man, he's mad. Instead of Bob. Okay. And I open up the closet and there's those gleaming red skis. And that was it. I just took to it like a duck to water and just loved it. And
did you take lessons? Or did
yeah, I took lessons and quite frankly, for as any folks that have kids know, it's a pretty good deal when you get these ski clubs and you can drop your kids off in the early morning at the bus and they don't bring them back until late in the evening. So you got the day to yourself and the kids are semi-supervised and you take lessons and, you know, you got the mountain to yourself. And so skied in Wisconsin for a couple of years, took lessons and just kind of figured it out on my own. And then the family moved out to California in 72. And yeah, I'm a little kid. Do they even have snow in California? I didn't know Squaw Valley was in California. So we hit the Bay Area and then joined a ski club where you get up at 4 a.m. and you're on the bus for 4.5 hours to get there. And I remember the first time getting to actually Alpine Meadows right next to Squaw Valley and looking up and just I was so blown away. I mean, it was like I'd arrived at Mecca.
This religious experience, yeah.
Yeah, and that was also when hot dog skiing was really making the big time, and I started seeing that in Dick Barrymore and Warren Miller movies and in ski magazines, and these guys were getting the huge crowds. And Jean Claude Killy actually had kind of that hot dog style, that very loose kind of cat-like style, not the traditional, really rigid. And I just said, hot dog skiing, man, that's it. Got to become I begged my parents. They sent me to a freestyle Airborne Eddie's freestyle ski camp, where it's a 2-week camp after the spring. The school's over the spring. You go to this 2-week ski camp, on a kind of like a glacier up in Crystal Mountain. And the first year I went, all my heroes are my coaches, and I just decided this is what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to become the world freestyle champion. I'm going to focus on this and learn that in order to do it safely, you need to learn gymnastics and springboard diving and trampoline. And so got into that in high school. And quick side note on that, this is real funny. I got to my high school as a freshman, there was no men's gymnastics team. So all the jocks are signing up over at the guys thing in the gym. And I kind of timidly go over to the girls side of the gym and I sign up for gymnastics, and all the guys are making fun of me. But ironically, about halfway through the first year, these guys are thinking, wait a minute, I'm sitting there, lifting weights with these smelly, ugly guys, and Bob's over there and he's spotting these really beautiful women in their Lycra suits and everything. Something's not right here.
You were smarter than you looked. That's great.
Yeah, it worked out okay.
Freestyle skiing, though, too, really was freestyle skiing, wasn't it? I mean, a lot of it, especially
in the early days. Yeah.
Making up jumps as you go, or like, what are you going to do? And that was in the movie too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly enough, for those that have seen the movie a lot, or when you see it, the writer Mike Marvin, everything in that movie is based on fact. Everything in that movie happened. It just didn't all happen to one person in one weekend. But like I say, those were simpler, kind of more innocent times. And but yeah, it was funny though. And David Naughton has a lot to do with really punching up that script on a lot of the comedy, which is fun. So yeah, it was just an amazing time.
What were the events when you first started? freestyle skiing?
Well, when by the time I got into it, they had broken it down. The early events were just kind of, go in a big mogul field and go crazy. And maybe they'd build a couple big jumps in the middle. So when I got into it, there was three events. There was ballet, which is no longer, but essentially it's like figure skating on skis to music, choreographed with axles and somersaults over your poles. And then there's moguls, which you see now in the Olympics, although back in the day, as I like to say, it was held on a wild moguls. They weren't farm raised moguls, which I have
now it's all machine.
Yeah, they're
moguls,
exactly the same, perfectly spaced apart, and then aerial acrobatics, where in the early days it was people are just kind of figuring stuff out, and tragically there were some injuries, some serious paralyzing injuries in the earlier 70s. And so when I got into it, I had a really healthy amount of fear. My mom was a nurse, my dad was a hospital administrator. So I was taking, I was actually taking and also helping coach gymnastics. So I knew what spinal cord injuries were. And so I had a healthy amount of fear. I was not one of those, oh, dude, we're going for it. I trained like crazy to just, way, I would do something 1,000 times on a springboard before I'd ever try it on snow. And I was always extra careful in everything, and also aware of the risks. As a matter of fact, doing stuff on snow, I had so much concern that it's hard to make yourself go into an 8-foot jump at 40 miles an hour when the only thing you can see is 3 miles away. Like everything in your brain is pretty much saying, stop, this is a bad idea.
Because those jumps are pretty much vertical.
Yeah.
You're thrown into a backflip when you go off of those aerial jumps.
Yeah, they're made to make you do whatever maneuver you were going to do. So I was fortunate that I was able to find and work with a brilliant sports psychologist who we did a lot of things, relaxation and hypnosis, and I was also super nervous competing. I would just fall apart in the starting gate. I could barely even stand up, and she would do visualization, all the sports therapy techniques. She got so good that I would drop into an in run, and I trained, so I was good at this stuff. I was dialed in, but as soon as I would start down the in run, I would just drop into this Zen state of just total confidence and calm. And when I was in the starting gate, I got so good that the bigger the competition and the worse the odds were against me, the stronger and more invincible I felt. Which, I mean, from all your competitive years, when you get to a certain level, it's mental, because you could take the top 20 people and anybody's capable of winning. It's that mental edge at that point. Tragically, that is how I broke my back, though. I mean, just to flash forward, I was kind of jumping around here, but I was another culmination of my career was after Hot Dog. I got hired to be on the Volvo ski team, which is it's another ultimate job. It was a promotional vehicle for Volvo cars.
But this is Hot Dog, right? I mean, you were doing freestyle. You're traveling to all of these places. Like, what was your job? How did this work? Because you call it a job. I think people might be a little suspicious when you actually describe what your job was.
Yeah, and I'm kind of jumping around, so let me know if I'm messing you up here.
Oh no, we're all good. We're all good. We'll have fun.
I'm caffeinated.
You're a freestyler. You're all over the place.
That's right. Well, yeah, we'll kind of get the elephant out of the room, though, as far as my injury, and then we can maybe back up on some stuff. But so I also, to kind of support my ski habit, I'm a show off. And one of the things that I love doing was I always wanted to be in ski shows. So if people remember, in the late 70s and the 80s, in the fall, there was these ski shows that would travel to kind of indoor arenas, like basketball arenas or whatever. And they would have all the different ski companies there, and you'd pay and you go in and see the cool stuff. And then in one end of the arena, they would have these shows where there was a called a ski deck. It's this big tilted platform with a carpet that revolves uphill, and you go down this carpet and you can ski back and forth on this carpet and stay in one place. And then next to that, they had a two-story high scaffolding with a ski jump built. With the top of it was like, I don't know, 25 feet. And then the top of the jump was about 10 feet off the ground. And then they had either an airbag or a pad that you would go off and do like a double somersault and, land and ski away. So again, I managed to kind of talk my way into becoming a performer in those ski shows and learned how to do that. Well,
and this was like AstroTurf kind of thing, like watered down AstroTurf.
Yeah. It exactly. It looks. It's like a very stiff AstroTurf that's, for lack of a better term, made out of a nylon surface. And like they actually places in England, they have whole and other parts of the world, they have whole ski slopes made out of these things. In fact, I'm kind of dating myself because you don't see them too much anymore, but every once in a while you'll see on the exit or the entrance of a chairlift, there are these kind of octagonal green, like looks like stiff grass that you slide across to get on the lift. It's that kind of stuff. It's just solid. So yeah, that was my job in the fall, was traveling up and down the West Coast, setting up those ski jumps and then doing 3 shows a day, choreographed to music.
It's like the carnival. I mean, you were effectively like the carnival, except nobody else could ride the rides.
Yeah, 100%. And then the year that I did Hot Dog, I had met a guy in Switzerland that was doing essentially a circus on skis on snow in Switzerland. And I talked my way over there and booked a ticket, landed in Switzerland. And funny little side note, landed in Switzerland after flying for a day and a half, and I'm 23 years old. The idea that they only spoke German in Switzerland and not English at all never occurred to me when I didn't finish German in high school. And I remember that first year I was the only guy that really spoke much English. Everybody else spoke a little bit of broken English on the team, but did ski shows there. But so the ultimate ski show in the world is the Volvo ski show. And it was when Volvo was trying to break away from kind of the 70s. They had an image as a very safe kind of car for college professors that smoked a pipe. And so they were making a more sporty, and they wanted to break into the sports car market. And a brilliant guy named Phil Sifferman approached Volvo, and he says, "Hey, I have a direct marketing campaign that is going to go right to people that like to spend time in snow. You got a great car built in Sweden. They've got a lot of money. In their image, they're 20 years old, but they're in their 50s, and they have the kind of money that a 50-year-old professional has." And they'll, "Oh, tell us some more." It's like, I'm going to have this like a Marlboro image team of skiers, and they're going to be dressed looking super cool, all the best stuff. And get 4 Volvo cars, your top cars, with like all full on winter racing stuff on it, and the logo. And we're going to go to the finest ski resorts all over the world and spend a week at each resort. And my job from December, through April was to, the first half was in Europe. Go to one resort, you land there, we're in first class hotels, and wake up in the morning. And we did have to help build the ski jump site, but then the rest of the day we were skiing with local journalists and celebrities and showing off for people. And then the next part of our job at night was we had to show up at a local pub, or I'm dating myself, the kind of the video dance club era that you had all over the place. We would have our own table and an open bar for the team, and everybody knew who we were. And in Europe, skiing's a big deal. And it's the first time in my life I ever had some game.
So this is a scam And you've gone to heaven effectively.
I said, I want to do this, every day. And the other guys on the team were former world champions, and these were all my heroes. So the first day I got there, I'm meeting, I like meeting like the, Tom Brady or something. I'm meeting my heroes, and I'm on their team. And then they say, well, here's your room, here's all your stuff. And there's like all the top of the line stuff from all these different companies. And I'm just, I can't believe this. And these guys have been on the team for a few years, so they're kind of used to this. And I would wake up every morning at like 6, just like a little kid on Christmas morning. And a couple times throughout the day, I'd look at these guys and I'd just say, do you believe that we get paid to do this? This is not normal. This is amazing. And they kind of chuckle at, like, the rookie American, man, he's easily amused, isn't he?
Cute little puppy. Yeah.
But on the other hand, they started to appreciate it because, no matter how good things get for you, you can forget how great things are. And so I think I was a little bit of a, I like to think I was a little bit of a, no, this is not normal. This is, this is amazing. Nobody gets to do this. And then anyway, the culmination of the week was the Volvo ski show, which was an hour-long ski show. We would build this arena of snow with giant ski jumps and a landing hill and a high-speed lift.
And where are you?
So we would be mostly in Europe. So like, I don't know, like Verbier or St. Anton or something like that. All the major ski towns. Okay. And so Friday night we'd be up on a hill where you could walk to. So all the people from town would show up, and we had this hour-long show that was under the lights, choreographed to music. We had a high-speed, like 30-mile-an-hour high-speed rope tow that would zing us back up to the top. And we did everything from choreographed, 5-6 guys holding hands, flying through the air, and double, triple twisting somersaults and all that stuff, and ballet and comedy routines with fireworks. And we'd have 10,000 people show up to see a ski show. And I never got over it. I said, we are rock stars. Are you kidding me? I never got over it. And then after the show's over, first thing you want is a beer. So you go into a bar and you're still in your Volvo suit, and it just, everybody stops and turns around.
You are somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Steve Martin thing. The new phone books are in. I'm somebody. But yeah, it was the greatest. Well, not the greatest time of my life. One of the many great times of my life. And I was always very, very careful on that show. And then we had got to Canada, and we had this huge jump built outside of Montreal, and the weather was changing there. And I had tested the jump the day before. Anyways, I was always super, super, super careful. And I was just, before the show, everybody does one jump just to figure out, you set a little stake in the ground. Like, if I start at this stake and don't take any moves, I'm going to have the perfect speed for this maneuver. So I wanted to do that, and the conditions were changing, and a couple of friends of mine on the team said, wait, it's getting a little iffy. And I wanted to grab dinner before the show. I go, no, I just want to set my speed stake. And it was the one time I let my guard down, and I did like a little speed check, but not enough. And I came into the jump too fast, and it's my own fault. I didn't do due diligence. I didn't do my due diligence, and I went too fast. And too high and too far. And so instead of doing a giant, like 100-foot somersault, I went way farther and over rotated and landed on my shoulders, where it started to flatten out. So instead of like a kind of a glancing blow, it was a whack. And at the last second, I threw my arms over my head because I didn't want to break my neck, which may have worked. And instead I had a major fracture dislocation of T11 and 12, and busted a bunch of ribs and nasty stuff. So, yeah.
So you went from living this dream to all of a sudden your life changed super, super quickly. What happened there? Where were you when you were in Montreal? You said when the accident
Yeah,
happened?
yeah, we were 2 hours outside of Montreal, and the Reader's Digest version is, as you know, Chris, even if you're kind of hurt, when you take a bad crash, your ego says, "I'm fine." It's like the Monty Python night. It's just a flesh wound. You always say, "I'm fine," and I'm lying there. Couldn't have been more perfect. I was flat on my back. Nothing moved weird or anything. But I immediately just screamed, "I'm in trouble." And what had happened essentially was the spinal cord was intact, but it had been slammed real hard. So there was, all kinds of bruising, and then all the ribs were broken. And so my perception, what I was feeling was, somebody had torn all my internal organs apart and thrown a shovel full of hot coals in there, and it wouldn't go out. Like I'd broken ribs before. I'd broken a shoulder when I was a little kid. I got hit by a car, broke a hip. That kind of hurt. This was like 1,000 times worse. I didn't think it was possible to absorb that much pain, and I didn't know what was wrong. I thought internal organs. I thought I was going to bleed out any second. I just and I kept almost losing consciousness, and I willed myself not to, because I was sure. I was really sure this was it. And
How old were you?
I was 24, just about to turn 25. And
24. Okay.
yeah, and I even kind of did the, going part way down the tunnel, and and I was like, "Hey, I don't believe in this, but whoa," and when I did that, like, all the pain started going away. But then I don't know what to make of this, if it's real or not, but in my perception, like, "Hey, wherever you're going to go is fine. This is great. No pain, doesn't matter." Oh, back up a little bit. So I'm there for about 5 minutes. The ski patrol's there. They're attending to me. My friends are there. And it's so much pain. All of a sudden, from the level of my injury down, it felt like in about 10 seconds, a dimmer switch turned off the feeling.
Really? You
And
felt it like this?
I felt it fade away over 10 or 20 seconds. And I just said, I said, "Guys, it's just gone from bad to worse. I'm paralyzed." And I'm doing all this stuff, like I'm reporting when I last ate and all this stuff, in case they have to do surgery. I'm just kind of doing all the mental coaching stuff that I'd learned first aid over the years. But yeah, so all this pain, I kind of went down that. Who knows what it is, but as I'm going down this tunnel, there was this sensation of everything's going to be fine, and like, no pain, just let go. And in my mind, I'm thinking, whoa, all of a sudden, like, this is death. This is cool. I get to find out what everybody on the planet wants. Like, this is awesome. And this was all gestalt. There was suddenly this awareness of, the thing is, you don't get to go back and tell them. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is all happening. Who knows? Was it happening over minutes or trillionths of a second? I don't know. And then I just started flashing on, crap, there's a lot of stuff I wanted to do in my life, and I haven't done it. And I kind of got twitched. And then I started thinking about, family and friends. And I started thinking, I know wherever I'm going, in my perception, I'm going to be fine, but I can't tell them. And so, I just, in my mind, I reversed that course, and suddenly I'm back in my body and in more pain than I didn't think I could last second to second. And unfortunately, it was foggy. They couldn't life flight me to the hospital, where, who knows, maybe they could have decompressed the injury right away. Instead, I had a 2-hour bumpy ambulance ride to the hospital, and took all the x-rays, and the doctor comes in and tells me, "What's going on? You got any questions?" And I say, "I have one." So, "I know I'm paralyzed. What are the odds that, you guys can do something about this, and I'm going to walk again?" And, man, I'd hate to be a doctor. And he just said, "Very remote." I think back on that. What a horrible thing to have to answer anybody, but what a perfect way to say it. Like, he didn't close the door. I mean, I think about that. Like, any doctors listening?
Right.
Like,
Because, so what do you mean by that? What did it do for you that he didn't close the door?
I got it that I wasn't going to walk again, but there was, he didn't like totally slam the door in my face right then and there. Like, he said it very dire, very remote, which is actually 100% true.
Well, what did walking mean for you?
Walking meant for me at the time 100% recovery, like just being fine. I had no idea about all the other stuff about spinal cord injury.
Right.
And so then I was so unstable, they couldn't even do surgery for about a week. And then they put Harrington rods in my back. And then I pretty much stayed on my back in Canada for a month until I was stable enough to fly home, and then did rehab at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center in San Jose. Shout out to them, because it was the old days where you got to stay in rehab till you learned all the things you needed to learn to stay healthy and not go back there.
Versus like a couple of weeks now.
I don't know how you survive in a 21-day rehab. Thank goodness for all the spinal cord injury support groups and your podcast and everything. I mean, I hated being in rehab, but it gave me all the tools to know how to take care of myself. And then, flash forward from there. Now I've got all my job skills are gone. The thing I loved more than anything on the planet, skiing, is gone, because they didn't have mono skis then. And, but everything's relative. When he said, the odds of very remote, one of the things that went through my mind is, but I'm going to live, because I really didn't think I was going to live. And so being paralyzed again, everything's relative. And so it really sucked. And I just said, I know, before I told him that, I said, tell me the truth. Don't sugarcoat it. I want to know. And I just kind of went, oh, shit.
Why did you want to know? Why did you have to know?
My background's German, so we're just very, we just want to know, we just want to know all the facts. And that's just, I've always just loved knowledge. So I didn't want to be wondering and hoping and clinging to fairy tales. I wanted to know what's going on.
So what were you going to do after this? I mean, you have this little bit of hope,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I'm alive.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're 24 years old. You're on your own.
Yeah. And on my own. And fortunately, my dad flew up. Like, I was so out of it and so morphined up. The next week seemed to last like there was seconds. I remember, the other thing is, the doctor said, you're in bad shape. We got to call your folks. And I thought, oh my God, how can you do this to your parents? Have them get this phone call. Your child's clinging to life. And I said, I'm only going to give you the number if you agree to hold the receiver up to my ear. Because I figure, at least if they're talking to me, you soften the blow. And so my dad gets on the phone and like, hey, how's it going? How's the tour? And oh, geez, I'm about to destroy his world. It's just, yeah, I still get teared up. And, but I just, I told him I've been in a really, really bad accident and I'm hurt really bad and I'm in the hospital. And my dad's a tough guy, military and everything. And I could see he's really, having trouble. And I said, Dad, look, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm going to hang on. I just wanted you to hear my voice, and I'm going to turn this over to the doctors. And at that point, I felt I could let go. And I then 24 hours later, he arrived in Montreal. For me, it was about 10 seconds. And
because you're in and out.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us have gone through that. I mean, the next week, the entire next week was like, a second here, a second there, and then, okay, we're going to put you under for surgery. okay, surgery's done. But so the real big stuff started getting to rehab. And interestingly enough, the one thing that really saved me was, thank goodness, the active lightweight sports chairs had entered the market. The quickies back then and the quadras and all the stuff now. And for those of us that go way back, 8 years earlier, you spent the rest of your life in a hospital type chair.
50-pound stainless steel.
Yeah. And so I figured, okay, I'm going to focus on getting out of the hospital. But I just felt so disabled. And the first day I went into the rehab gym, they had a red quickie wheelchair, nice racing bicycle tires, and a red quadra. This is 1985. So the two active lightweight chairs were quickie and quadra, and they had two of those in the gym. And I saw those and I went, okay, this is cool. The image I got on that, like, this is sporty. This is not disabled. This is cool. And it enabled me to, okay, I can be that guy. And so then I just, I blasted through rehab. Like, what do I have to learn and accomplish to get out of here? I approached it like I was training for World Cup, and then got out. And I got to say, I was a model patient. I had no idea what I was going to do, but fortunately, they had really good counselors there, and they hooked me up with somebody with Vogel Rehab. And they said, look, what do you want to do with your life? And I would have never in a million years gone to college. That terrified me. I quit high school with a DNF record in the beginning of my junior year to go on the ski tour. Right. I took the GED, but and the idea of college was terrifying, because I was barely, I couldn't even do long division, and remedial English, the whole deal. But I said, okay, I'll try college. And I jumped into it. And the first day on campus there, to me, was probably way scarier than doing a double twisting, double somersault. Scarier than, but the big picture is I dug in. I had amazing instructors. I brought I was an avid reader, so that helped out, voracious reader. But it was one of the most amazing experiences and life enhancing experiences of my life. And ended up getting into broadcast and electronic communication with an emphasis on video production. And got my BA with honors. Who would have ever thought?
How did you start
over? Yeah,
but
I guess
the hard part, like, how did get through that difficulty of, like, this is not who I am? How could you become that person when that really wasn't who you were?
Yeah. I just figured the big thing for me was, in my perception, facing down death. And there was it never left me, that gestalt thing of, you were going to accomplish all these things in your life and you're going to leave now? Hey, no, and I, there was just this gestalt thing of everything that I'd planned to do. Like, really? You're going to leave that? And so that never left me. That, man, I've gone through the worst thing ever. I'm just going to go, pedal to the metal. Another thing, this is actually a little twisted, but it was the same year Lethal Weapon came out.
Okay.
And Mel Gibson's character in Lethal Weapon plays this guy that he's recently lost his wife, and he's a police undercover detective or a cop, and he's suicidal, and he doesn't care if he lives or dies. So he's doing this extreme police work, like, kind of hoping he's going to get killed, not really trying to get killed, but not really caring. And so in a way, I was so torn up on the one side that it was so bad that it gave me the freedom to try anything. Because, like, okay, this is about as bad as it gets, like, what's going to be worse? Embarrassment? you know, I'm paralyzed. I almost died. Embarrassment is nothing. Sadly, that started ramping up later in life and got normal again. But
well, that was my question too. As you were saying that, it's like, can you maintain? Can you dip back into that sentiment, that belief of like, I don't care. I'm going to do everything. I've almost died. So
I am able to go back to that well, and it takes a lot of effort. In fact, when I was in rehab, I was always pretty happy during the day. Like I was the AJ squared away guy, but then a friend would call and I'd break into tears. And so I knew, this is not normal. This is some PTSD stuff. Didn't know what that was, but so I sought, and our family always figured if you seek the help of a therapist, you're okay. It's if you try and tough it out on your own, then you got problems. So I sought the help of the therapist, and she was very wise. And one of the things she said is, hey, can you get through the next hour? Can you get through the next day? And I said, yeah. And she's like, don't worry about the rest of your life. She gave me permission to take things in little chunks. But I do go back to that well occasionally because I am naturally very shy. I have a real serious fear bumper. It's just that the stuff I want to do that's fun, I would rather, my greatest fear ever, and I used to have this recurring nightmare when I was about 9 or 10 years old, that I was 70 and had led a very nice, safe life, but no adventure, and I was too old to do them. And I don't know where that came from, but it terrified me. I was way more scared of not having a full, rich life, of doing all that cool stuff you see on TV. And so I'm way out of my comfort zone when I try this stuff. But there's stuff I won't do because I deem it too dangerous. And I want to have a full life. And so, I've been in some hairy situations. And I'm, okay, you know what? This is an amazing experience. And if I live through it, it's going to be a cool story.
So this is when you're really alive.
Yeah.
When you're doing this stuff that's crazy. And the motivation is that you don't want to be, not that 70 is on your deathbed, but when you're younger, you were probably thinking that
70 is ancient. 70 is seeming real young now.
As it gets closer and closer. Exactly.
Yeah.
But you didn't want to look back on that and say, I didn't want to miss my life. This is Thoreau. This is, all these people, don't want to go through life having never lived or whatever, I'm misquoting him, obviously, but did journalism, was that a part of it? Was journalism part of figuring out how to tell the story, how to really live life? What attracted you to journalism?
Yeah. Well, that was kind of an accident. About a few years after I was injured, I stumbled across this really cool, edgy magazine. At the time, it was called Spinal Network, and it's since changed to, now we know it as New Mobility Magazine. And it was real cutting edge. And I used to read that every single month. Actually, it was quarterly. And I noticed that
what made it cutting edge?
It was kind of a cutting edge, meaning some of the other magazines were, this is inspiration and that kind of stuff, and that's good, but not just a little tiny bit of it. This was more like, hey, we're going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly about spinal cord injury. Like, we're going to tell you the cool stuff. We're also going to tell you the edgy stuff. We're going to talk about sex and dating. We're going to talk about guys in wheelchairs in prison. We're going to talk about life, not here's this nice little happy life, you happy people in wheelchairs, and that's
sugar-coated.
Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I was doing video production at the time, and also getting into wheelchair sales. I'm all over the board, and I went to one of these ability shows. Anyway, I noticed that the editor was a guy named Barry Corbett. Now, growing up, the ski films that I used to watch were made by this guy, Barry Corbett. He made the most iconic ski films ever. And he also was a photographer and one of the lead climbers on the 1963 American Everest expedition and stuff. And but this guy is the editor of the magazine and is a wheelchair. I can't be the same guy. And so I'm at this trade show, and as skiers are wont to do, we have a tendency to be able to, kind of talk our way in and out of whatever we want to get into.
Because you never have enough money to actually do what you're supposed to.
Because we're always broke. So I wrangled myself an invite to a dinner with the magazine. And at dinner, after the second drink, I asked this guy, Barry Corbett, I said, you by chance aren't the same guy, Barry Corbett, that made, the Mobius flip and the magic skis and all this stuff? And he kind of like, oh yeah. And it's like Wayne's World. Oh my goodness, I'm not worthy. I said, your ski films changed my life. And in a classic fashion, he says, oh, I'm sorry. I just he just had a good sense of humor. And so I got way into peer counseling, and I started meeting all these amazing people through peer counseling. And one of the first mind-boggling people I met was Danny Chandler, who was he was the world motocross champion until he broke his neck and became a C5-6 complete quad. And then he had figured out how to modify an off-road race car and a jet ski in order to ride. And so he had an amazing story. And so I just kind of figured, wow, I love telling stories. That's why I got into video production. But at the time, video production was so expensive. The cameras were a fortune. It cost $300 an hour to make one or two edits. Think about that now, when you can do, the stuff you can do on your iPhone, you used to cost like $30,000 for a 28-minute deal, and take, months. So anyways, I figured, all right, video's a way for me to travel around, but I need a whole team of people and all this stuff. And I had done that. Well, gee, all I need is a camera. I'd learn photography and learn how to take notes, and I could probably tell a story. So I pitched the story to Barry, and he says, hey, give it a shot, send it in. I'll tell you if I can use it or not. I had no idea what I was doing. And he said, give me 2,000 words. So I went up for 2 days with tapes and tapes and tapes. And I interviewed this guy and I transcribed it. And I ended up getting my story from like 20,000 words down to 6,000. And that was as far as I could cut it. And I sent it to him, and poor Barry, but he sends me back this work of art at 2,000 words. And I just, wow, I look like a genius. And he was very nice. That was back in the day when you would put something on a disc and FedEx it to your editor, and and you'd call him on the phone. And he said, now that we know that you know how to tell a story, tell me more ideas and I will help. I'll help you, get closer and closer to getting me something that I don't have to touch. And he was just like, he was my guru and mentor in that. And I found that journalism was a way for me to get paid, or at least be able to write off all these incredible adventures all around the planet, and make pennies on the dollar and starve subsistence, but live the coolest life ever. Basically I was doing the adventures that millionaires do. It's just that I wasn't paying for them. I was getting paid to cover them.
Was that a conscious thought for you? That's
100%,
what you wanted to do?
100%. Two things I love are doing crazy adventures, and almost even more, telling stories about it later. I love to hold court.
It's the chicken and the egg question, right?
Yeah.
You do the adventure so you can tell the story, or do you tell the story about the adventure? Which is the most motivating part of it?
Yeah.
So that was that in 96. You started with New Mobility.
Yeah.
When you wrote that first story, did you then get hired?
Well, I've always been freelance, and to this day, I'm their senior correspondent. But I really like working as a freelancer because I can work as hard or as little as I want. If I want to take some time off and just do a private adventure, or when I was raising my daughter and everything, I was doing a little bit less writing, and so I always enjoyed the day gig. I mean, it's way tougher as far as paying rent, but again, I can make top ramen stretch a long way. So.
Wow. Now, so with that, when you look back now, it's because you're approaching 61, right? You're 60.
Yeah, April 11th, 61st birthday.
So 61, which, is kind of, you start
Oh, believe me, it's hitting me.
start hitting those steps, and you start getting closer and closer to 70.
Yeah.
As you look back on it, as you look back on your life, and you signed up for all these adventures.
Yeah.
Do you look back and say, yeah, I did what I set out to do?
Yes.
Or are you still doing it?
Yeah. Well, I am so grateful that I did that. And again, it's a choice. Here's a juxtaposition. My dad was a pilot in Korea, and he has stories, like just insane pilot stories. And then he went to school and he got his degree in hospital administration. And after we were born, it wasn't until I was 7 or 8 that started hearing all his flight stories. And he stayed in the Air Force Reserve for the rest of his life, but in administration, not as a pilot. And he could have been a pilot for the airlines or a test pilot. I said, Dad, I don't get it. You drive a station wagon at 55 miles an hour. I don't understand. I can't. You were this pilot all over the world. And he said, I wanted a wife and kids, and a pilot is not home that much. I wanted to be there, a present dad, and that's what I wanted. And he said, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I'm so glad I had my earlier adventures, but this is the most, your mom and and your kids is the most rewarding thing ever. And
you balance the two, though. You had this
Yeah,
life of adventure, but then you had your daughter, right?
Yeah, at age 41, my daughter came into my life, Sarah Ann. Hey, Sarah. And interestingly enough, though, I didn't get what he meant until the first time I held her in my arms. And I just like, whoa. And I will say, the first 6 months of no sleep, they say you just fall madly in love with your child the first time. The 6 months, it was kind of a love-hate sort of thing. Like, okay, I got to keep him alive. But once they start sleeping through the night.
What was that first feeling when you first held her in your arms? What was that feeling?
Well, a condensed version is she was we managed to adopt, my wife and I managed to adopt her through foster care. So we got her at 1 month old, and it was a combination of excitement and complete terror. And I mean this because I know, like, this entire person's life and well-being depends on my taking care of her and setting an example. And I mean, it was exciting, but it was terrifying. And
you had to do more than most people, though, right? You had to do 3 months of classwork effectively to be foster parents, didn't you? So most people don't have that 3-month buildup to all of a sudden you have a child, and you still didn't feel prepared, is what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, the foster care classes really helped prepare us to become parents, but still. And I'll tell you, I've told a lot of new parents that the idea that you hold your child for the first time, and it's just the angels are singing and there's flowers falling and there's a ray of light on you. For some people, 100% that happens. But I tell people, I said, a lot of people, it's not uncommon to feel zero connection and feel horrendous guilt about that. And I said, don't worry about it, because this is a new deal. And for me, like, I was dedicated. I would throw myself in front of a train for her. I was just, from the first second on, I'm like, I am going to do everything to make this the most perfect kid ever. But that first 6 months, it was a lot of willpower. And I'd say, around 6 months is really when, when I just fell head over heels madly in love. I mean, like, I always liked her. I just didn't like the fact that I had to wake up every 2 hours to feed her all night long. My wife and I took shifts, so it'd be 2 nights on for me, then 2 nights on for her. um, but
How old
again,
is
I look
she?
back on that, and everything I've ever done in my life, being a dad for me is by far the most rewarding thing ever. I just, who would have thunk, and it's only, don't do it if it isn't for you. That's like I tell people, I always did want kids at some point. And thanks to my wife, I would still be planning to have them at this age, because I never decided to sit down and pull the trigger. So yeah.
So you said that so much of what you wanted to do was create this perfect being and give her this perfect life. What's the message that you're giving her now? Because she's older. Is she 20?
She's 20. Yeah, she's 20, and she works full time, and she's going to community college full time. And I'm, ask me in 10 years, but she's, my best friend and the most amazing young adult, and funny and smart. And that old saying, you're never given more than you can handle. Thank goodness I can't handle a lot of drama when it comes to children.
What about juxtaposing your father's experience with your experience? How does that create the message that you're giving your daughter?
She sees both sides of it. I will say that after she came into my life, I did ramp down the extreme part of my adventure. I retired from hang gliding. To me, it was going to be a temporary retirement until she was about 17. And after 17 years of not flying, I could have gotten back into it. But I think at this point, if I get the money, I'll learn how to fly a glider plane or something, with seat belts and nice and easy. So I still did the adventures, but I ramped them down. I suddenly it was, I cannot die. I have to be there as a dad. And it's weird. Like, I really, there's stuff that I said, nope, too far for me now. I got a daughter, and I just, and there's part of my brain saying, are you insane? It's like, so a lot of the adventures, like, okay, you may be super uncomfortable, but you're not going to die.
What's the other part of your brain saying? The one part saying you're insane. What's the other part saying?
The other part saying, yeah, this is great, because this is the greatest thing ever. You're raising this awesome human, and this is really cool. And I don't know how to describe it, except that there must be some kind of weird little thing that activates in your brain at a certain point where I don't know what it is, but it's just been a joy of, everything from teaching her stuff to, trying to set the right example and all that stuff of how I hope she would grow up, and being 100% honest, which at times the other parents didn't like. Nothing bad, but just, I always told her from a young age, I'm never going to lie to you. There may be things I may wait till you're older, but I'm never going to lie to you. Scariest thing in the world was when she was 7 and she stamped her feet in front of me and asked me if Santa Claus was real or me and mom delivering presents.
Oh, and how did you answer that?
I just said, I said, tell you what, I want you to take about 5 minutes and think about this. Really think about it carefully. And so she came back in 5 minutes, like, I really want to know. And I said, really? And I kind of, I softened it a little. I said, Spirit of Christmas is real. All that stuff's real. As far as who pays for the presents and wraps them, that's mom and dad. And there was the quivering lower lip. And now I know what it, now I know, they say, oh, it took, like, you just found out there's no Santa Claus. Now I know what that face looks like. I gave her a big hug, and, you gonna be okay? And, yeah. And she kind of, at 7, that's about when you kind of knew. Some of the other parents thought, she didn't share it with our kids or anything, but when I told some of the other parents, they said, you are the worst father on the planet. And I just said, the deal I have with my daughter is she knows there may be things that I'll say I'm not going to tell you right now, but I'm never going to lie to you. And so that was one of those things. Yeah.
You said, and we'll try to get you out on this. You said that back in rehab, after you broke your back, that you saw the quickie wheelchair, the quadra wheelchair, and you said, okay, this is okay. But you're still working on that because there's always a new iteration, right? And you've been working as an ambassador, going lighter and stronger.
Yeah.
And what are you trying to do? What's the motivation in working with motion composite wheelchairs?
Yeah. Oh, just a shout out. So I am a brand ambassador for Motion Composites wheelchairs. So they make carbon fiber wheelchairs, super light, adjustable, damp ride. To me, it's the leading edge. It's the next level of high performance, fit and coolness in wheelchairs. And from that first quickie wheelchair, I saw that was such a massive life changer that, yeah, I'm going to look cool. It's like wearing a cool, it's my style. And when I first got in my first quickie, wow, it was like I could fly. After getting in that hospital chair, I must have just done circles and just pushed back and forth, up and down. This is just testing it out in the hospital for like an hour, where they finally, okay, PT time's over. You got to get back in your hospital chair. But I just remember it was just like flying. It was more like I was in a sports car, or I'd gotten a new pair of skis or something, than being disabled and in a chair. I mean, it was cool. It was like being on a cool racing bike. Like, this is cool. I can be seen in this. Like I could pate with you. and so anytime I see the latest and greatest, if there's a way to get involved, and so yeah, that's it. And thank goodness the industry continues to evolve, because it's I never wish an injury on anybody, but as far as equipment, it's the best time ever, and it keeps getting better.
The technology, and especially as we keep getting older as well, we do more and more to appear cool. And the light part of it is that it's just hard, like just putting it in your car, just taking the chair and pulling it over your body and putting it in the back seat or whatever with one arm. Those shoulders get abused. So
that's true, thank goodness, because my shoulders are getting a little tired, and it seems like the chairs are getting lighter along with the tiredness. So let's hope. I definitely found that I'm having to do the little PT bands every day just to keep them going. And
exactly. Bob, thank you for talking us through, from hot dog to your daughter, I guess. Really, I don't know. There's some sort of range right there, right? We went from the crazy 80s to the most heartfelt part of the whole story. So thank you for bringing us from one part to the other. Really.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. And thank you to all of you for listening. If you didn't get a chance to hear the whole interview, it will be on the One Revolution page. So you can go to the One Revolution page and watch it in its entirety. As we were telling Bob before he arrived, we will edit this slightly, and it'll become a podcast. So wherever you see podcasts, it'll be on YouTube, so you can actually watch and listen, and it'll be on Spotify and Apple and all the other places that you find it. So thank you very much. If you enjoy what we've done here, please tell your friends, please like us, please follow us. I really appreciate that. And we'll see you again next week with another amazing guest. Bob, thanks a ton. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks.